So you're 12 years into being an AlphaGraphics franchise owner. Can we go back a little bit and just share a little bit about your background before that and then about your business? That would be
Sure,
great to have that context.
sure. Let's see. I was born. No, we don't need to go back that far. Um, the bulk of my career prior to business ownership was in beverages and going all the way back to 1990 when I was selling bottled water up and down the street, and people said, nobody will ever spend $1 for a bottle of water when I can get it for free in the drinking fountain. And yet I persisted with that, went from selling bottled water to 7 Up to Coca-Cola, which I was at for about 15 years and moved to various places and brought me to Atlanta. And a couple of years in, I found myself on the other end of a reorganization that I'm sure many, many people can relate to in that space at that age with that experience. And that's where you and I met, Leslie. And that journey began of, well, I know what I've always done. Is that what I'm supposed to always do? And I think that was the biggest realization of, um, do I want to just get another job working for corporate America, or is this the time to truly spread my wings and do my own thing? And that was only, I thought that was kind of the answer. It turns out that's really probably only half the answer. And the other half being, okay, now that you've decided that's where your headspace is, okay, what do you want to do?
Right. And that's exciting, but overwhelming when you all of a sudden have this blank canvas of what's next for me. And that could be all kinds of things, especially when you add in there, well, maybe I want to do something different than what I've done before. And I remember, Curtis, you said that you found that you really had to change your thinking. And I would love to poke at that a little bit because I think that's really important. I'm kind of interpreting for you that, when you were leaving Coke, and that's the environment that you had been accustomed to for a while, and now you're thinking about what's next. You had some perceptions of yourself or perceptions of your options or perceptions of the whole process ahead of you of figuring out that you realized that there was a mind shift that was going to be required. And can you speak more to that? Because that's so common, and would love for you to share your experience
I,
about that.
I mean, and this is what I tell, any young person that I might mentor or anybody that's my age. It's all about transferable skills. And it's you may think because you did a particular job or function in an organization, well, then that's your space. And for some, that's probably true. Those are not entrepreneurs.
Right.
That's fine. You shouldn't try something new. You could live a lifetime of being an accountant or live a lifetime of whatever this space might be for you. I think for me at least, I had to take a step back and take a legitimate inventory on um, who I was, who I wasn't, who I wanted to be, who I thought I was and never had the chance to be, and figure out, more importantly, kind of what are the skills that I can bring to the party? What are the things that I feel like I'm good at or could be good at or want to be good at? And then what are the things that I know I don't want to do anymore?
Right.
And once you become agnostic as it relates to those opportunities. And so once you kind of take away the fear, you don't fully take away the fear, but at least you're more open to accepting things that perhaps you didn't understand or didn't think about, and just go, well, like, look at, for me, I've been in printing and design for 12 years now. And Leslie, if you gave me a list of 100 choices 12 years ago and said, pick the ones that make sense for you, I wouldn't have chosen this. And yet, however, for 12 years, and this is no lie, I've come to work every day, happy to come to work with people that I legitimately enjoy working with, and for clients that I legitimately enjoy working for. And so when you put those three things together, you will be successful. There's no way around it.
Yeah.
And that's the culture that we've built and that we continue to build here over the course of the last 12 years.
Curtis, do you remember, so in the spirit of what you just shared, which is so common, that most people who end up in a business that's a part of a franchise brand, at the onset of their search journey, if they were scrolling lists of franchise names, what they end up choosing, like you just said, is usually something that they would just bypass. So can you remember when you first heard about the AlphaGraphics opportunity and it was not something that you instinctively saw yourself in, how did you cross that bridge of being open to it?
I think I'm a realistic optimist. Okay, if there's such a thing as that. So I'm optimistic, like, oh, this could be a great thing. But I'm realistic thinking, it's probably not. And so when I ran into AlphaGraphics, I thought, let me disqualify this quickly. Let me at least have a conversation, take a half hour, 45 minutes, an hour. Let me go online, let me surf around, let me see. I think they had the internet back then. Let me surf around, let me see what's going on, and then let me have a conversation because I'm certain there'll be things that I'm going to hear that will allow me to quickly I'm still going to trust my gut, right? So I wasn't a kid. I was an experienced, business person. And I thought there'll be things that they won't be able to answer for me, or they're going to answer the wrong way, or something's not going to feel right. And then I'll just be able to, let me just strike that out and let me move on to the next. And with AlphaGraphics, had an initial conversation with them. I'm like, I'm sure it's still not for me, but like, that kind of passed the first filter, that initial vetting. And then I spoke to a couple of franchisees. And one person, this is years ago, he's already retired, but he was very successful. He gave me great advice, and I've given that advice to people that I've talked to. He said, talk to enough people within the franchise and talk to both the people that are winning and losing, the people that are successful and not successful within the brand. And if you identify yourself more closely with the winners than the folks that are not winning, this may be the right opportunity. But if you go down the road and you're identifying with the people that have either, exited the brand or have not been successful, well, then that's probably not the right space for you. And as simple as that was, it was meaningful. And I remember it from years ago. But my journey was about that. How do I disqualify quickly? Like you and I have talked about in the past, like, yeah, no. And here's the reason, no, this, they were too aggressive, or this didn't have a point of differentiation, or whatever it is. And with AlphaGraphics, it was kind of one to the next. And I went to Discovery Day. They were in Utah back then. And I went thinking, well, I'm going to go, but I'm going to probably disqualify them because these three things, I bet I'm worried about these three things. And within that Discovery Day, I was able to walk away, not like solving those three things, but at least going, they answered those questions pretty well. And while for any entrepreneur and for anybody at that jumping off point, you're never going to be 100%. But there's going to be this place where you have to say, now is the time, and this is the partner. And that's what I did. And I'm just so fortunate that at that moment, I had the gumption or the stupidity to move forward with this business, 12 years ago.
And something, what I'm hearing from you that I think is important, and how you were successful at landing on a next opportunity that's been a great chapter for you, is you had concerns, but you didn't make up the answers in your head to those concerns. You turned them into questions and put those questions on the table to the various people within the AlphaGraphics organization, the franchise owners, and then you made your decision, you came to your conclusions, not making up the answers in your own mind, but by actually hearing experiences and giving people the opportunity to answer your questions. And that's a trap that I see people fall into sometimes, is they, we all have assumptions and perceptions about things, but when people make up their mind, this is how it is in their own head before turning those into actual questions, they may bypass something that would ultimately be a great opportunity. So that's an openness and a skill that's important.
100%. I'd say the other challenge is when people are in that space and they want to consult with everybody. What do you think about this? What would you? And it's like, not everybody is wired the way you are. And it's so individualistic that I think that is the trap of the safety trap of, great, I was looking to say no to this and you've given me all that I need now. Okay, I can disqualify them. Instead of getting to a place of, for the folks that you deal with, they're at a reasonable level of success. They've accumulated some money. They've done some things the right way. Their instincts are probably pretty darn good, but they're scared.
Yeah.
I was scared. Anybody that's doing it's a huge risk. If it didn't work for me, it would have been bad. But that's also why I believe it did work, is because there were no other options of, let me weigh these three things out. It'll be a 3-person race and I only need one of them to win. It doesn't work like that.
Right.
When you're in, you're in.
But part of the confidence, and this is my last question for you, and I think would be good to speak to, was your comment earlier about really think about your skills, your transferable skills. That is a important factor in this, and a strong risk mitigation piece of this puzzle is identifying a business that, even though the industry is new to you, you have a line of sight into, okay, I know I have these talents and skills, and I've been successful using these talents and skills, and I can see how I can apply them to this new business that I'm thinking about going into. Can you talk about that? Where and how in your research did you see that, even though you'd never been in the graphics and printing business before, there was a place for your skill sets? How did you see that to help you with your decision?
I think a big part of that is the benefit of a franchise. While I didn't know anything about print and design and signs, what I came to the party with was a pretty good background in customer management, brand management, product management, sales management, marketing, and you kind of find the people that have what you don't have too. So you've got to find a staff that understands it. I couldn't have hired a bunch of people that knew as little about the business as I did. The other part is a good franchise is going to have an operating model that's going to help you. A good franchise is going to have a model that is going to allow somebody to come in with whatever skill set they provide and learn. So to me, as I think about whatever the next business might be that I might add into it, it's a franchise, because I don't want to start with nothing and think that I'm smart enough to develop this brand from zero. I don't have that in me anymore. But that's the real benefit of a solid franchise or partnership, trusting one. That was the other part we didn't even talk about. I'm not an overly trusting person. I'm like, Reagan used to say, this will get lost with a lot of people that maybe you'll talk to, but trust but verify, right? And that was like, oh, I'll trust you, but I'm going to sign a 15-year deal with you. Oh, the lawyers will definitely be reviewing this closely. We're going to have a lot of back and forth negotiation, but ultimately that is a marriage, and 15 years is a lengthy marriage, frankly. I mean, for me at least it was. But that franchisor relationship is so important because of the framework that you're provided, because of the network. Once you get started, you're relying on the franchisor. I rely on the franchisor very little. I rely on my franchisees every day. We're having conversations about how do you handle this? Who did you do this with? How did that work out? What traps might I fall in? And if you're in the right organization, you're developing not just those working relationships, but those personal relationships of trust. And I think that's really the benefit. That's not just what AlphaGraphics provided me. I think that's what a good franchisor provides for the franchisees. I went off on a tangent that I don't know if I answered your question well enough
No,
or not.
you did, but you've pointed to something that I see gets overlooked in the whole franchising value proposition. And I agree. It's be skeptical, come into this with open-mindedness, but also of the mindset that this has to be proven to me. And so that is, I think, a healthy mindset in all of this. And when people are exploring this in the beginning, they're naturally very focused on what the franchisor does and should bring to the table.
As
But
they should be,
as
yeah.
they should, what gets overlooked is what you just said, is the value of the network of other franchise owners. And, I'm 25 years into my franchise now. And likewise, there's certainly services and benefits that my franchisor provides for me, and I pay for that in the fees, my various franchise fees. But the best benefit to me now is my colleagues who wear the same jersey as I do, and we help each other, and we approach challenges together, we brainstorm together. Heck, I go on vacation with
Yeah.
some of my
Well,
fellow
and
franchisees.
they understand your unique challenges unlike
Yes,
anybody else does.
yes, yes,
And they can be your cheerleader too, because there's likely you're a business owner. You can't share all the details of everything with your team. You need to make sure that you've got kind of a pseudo board of directors that can challenge you and push you and tell you, get off your ass and sell something or do something this way or whatever it might be. And you can respect and do the same thing for them.
yeah. Curtis, our conversation has been short, but it is chock full of, I think, really good stuff that is really going to be helpful to other people who are where you were 12 plus years ago, kind of finishing up a career chapter, thinking about what's next, not knowing what that next thing's going to be. So there's a whole lot of good advice that you just shared here. So I appreciate that.
Hope it helps anybody.
And congratulations on 12 years in business.
Thank
That's
you.
no small feat. Congratulations, my
Appreciate
friend.
it.